If you've never seen us before, we are the grilled cheese family.
Yeah, we're the grilled cheese family, and today we're going to go over our origin story. Basically, specifically Mandy's origin story, where she grew up, how she was raised as it pertains to relationships, family dynamics, divorce, all that fun stuff. Just kind of how that pertains to how she is now and how it molded her as a human and why I fell in love with her. All right?
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Okay. Well, I was born in Irving, Texas. Um, I have a mother, father, and a brother and a sister. My brother and sister are both younger, so I am the oldest of the three. We were all three born in Texas. We lived there for 5 or 6 years. I can't take me back that far, but it was about that long. The only thing that I remember about Texas is a tumbleweed blowing across the subdivision. It's a really pretty brick subdivision. But anyways, from there, my father and mother decided to move us to Knoxville, Tennessee, which that's where all of my family is. So we went back to be with some family. That was very short-lived. We lived there for maybe a few months.
Now, is it Knoxville or Knoxville?
Knoxville.
One more time?
Knoxville.
Okay.
Don't make fun of me. But from there we moved to Greenville, South Carolina. So probably, I don't know, 6 or 7 at this point, years old. Moved to Greenville, South Carolina, and that's pretty much where I grew up. I guess a large portion of my life was spent in Greenville, South Carolina. So while we were there, went through elementary school, went to a couple different elementary schools, and also middle and a short portion of high school.
Okay.
Being raised there, I thought Greenville was wonderful. I loved it. It's a great city to be in and even to just visit. But living there was really great. Let's see.
So where did you go after Greenville? Where was your parents at? Were they both in Greenville?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you grew up with both parents from Texas to Knoxville to Greenville,
Greenville.
Tennessee.
Mm-hmm.
Or sorry, Greenville, South Carolina,
Carolina.
not Tennessee.
Right. Ah. Uh, in there, my mom and dad actually started their own business.
Really?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yes. It was short-lived as well. But nonetheless, from there, I was 15 when we moved out of there. So
basically from the ages of what, 7?
7 to 15.
7 to 15.
I was
Okay,
in Greenville. Greenville, I did a lot of sports. I had great friends. I went to a Christian school and then got culture shocked into public school.
So you were playing sports in Greenville.
Mhm.
What sport were you playing?
Yeah, soccer. I was really, really good at soccer. So good that I was playing on like 4 different teams, and I played at 13 and 14. I was playing on an adult league. I had middle school and high school soccer that I was playing for. But in my freshman year in high school, I blew out my ACL. Yeah, it was rough. And so from there on, I was kind of really protective of that leg. I didn't want to hurt it anymore.
So your dreams of soccer were done at that point?
Well, they weren't done completely, but it was a big turning point in my soccer professional career.
And how did your parents handle that?
Well, they were disappointed. Also, it's just like any other thing. I mean, I was in the orchestra, played a flute,
Ooh.
and they were super upset when I decided I didn't want to play flute anymore.
Gotcha.
From there, it was still me, my mom, my brother, and my sister. My mom and dad had some arguments, and there started to show a few like cracks in their relationship. And like I think that as children and adults, as a coping mechanism, we tried to forget a lot of the pain points growing up.
That completely makes sense.
Yeah, and so I saw my dad as this great dad
Right.
even though things started to go south then. And I think they had been going south for a while. I just didn't realize it. I was too busy living my own teenage dream. But from there,
You said about 14, 15 from
right,
South Carolina. You
right,
moved to.
Knoxville, Tennessee.
Oh, you moved back to Knoxville. Okay.
Yes. Again, Knoxville's a hub for all of my family, so that's where we landed again. And moving from Greenville, South Carolina to Knoxville, Tennessee, especially between your freshman and sophomore year of high school, was really hard, really hard. Um,
Yeah, you were
it was
going
a
through
dark
your
time.
knee injury, and
Hmm.
you know you're a teenager, so that's
Right.
tough in general.
It was a depressive state for me.
Gotcha.
But when we found out later on that the reason for our move to Knoxville was number one, because their company went under, and then also my dad needed to go to a rehab.
Mm.
He's an alcoholic, and still is to this day. But there were some tough times and fights between my mom and dad that started right around that time. It really got the house just wasn't very comfortable anymore.
So you were about 16, 17 at
Hmm.
that point when things started to
Yeah,
go off the rails?
yeah. I think my mom and dad stayed together because they wanted to wait for us to be able to be out of the house before getting a divorce, but they didn't make it that long. At that age, or that time in my life, my mom and dad decided to get a divorce, and
How did you feel about that when they were how did they go about telling you guys that they were getting a divorce, and also how did you manage hearing about them getting a divorce?
well, I actually kind of encouraged it for my mom because at this point I had seen a lot of this stuff. His addiction was overpowering anything, and it was crumbling our house. And my dad just wasn't the man that he should have been in our lives and in our home. And I think that um, I just mom deserved better.
Gotcha.
And so yeah,
And then as far as like relationship dynamic, obviously your parents seemed okay until they weren't.
right.
But as far as how you were raised to view relationships, how would you describe that?
Well, I mean, I was raised up to believe that the man was the head of the household, and um, the woman was the helpmeet for the man. Um, Even though I don't recall seeing that, it's just still very much. I mean, we grew up in church,
Mm-hmm.
and church was a big thing. I mean, we were there every time the doors were open, and my mom and dad even did like youth. They were youth pastors.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, so they did quite a bit, and we were there a lot. So the core foundations of a household were brought to me by the church, Southern Baptist. So, but it was a good time. We had a lot of great memories at church. A lot of great times happened, and I learned a lot, and it was really good. But
Okay, so moving from like your parents are going through a divorce around 17 years old,
mhm.
and moving from there, what transpired in your life?
Well, at that when my mom and dad said that they were getting a divorce, I think I kind of clammed up. I was in a relationship with a man who was about the same age as me, um, for about a year at that point. And when my mom and dad decided to separate, my mom, my sister went with my mom, my brother went with my dad, and I didn't want to choose. So I just moved out completely. And that was 17.
Gotcha.
But I graduated high school after that, and entered the workforce.
So you had moved in with your boyfriend at
Yeah,
that time,
yeah.
out of your mom and dad's home.
Correct, right.
Okay.
So I went straight into working, and mom and dad just showed more of himself, and mom was working like 3 and 4 jobs. And my sister went a little wild, and my brother went a little wild, and I was a little wild at that point too.
I mean, you guys are teenagers,
Right,
what do you
doing the
expect?
teenage thing.
Yeah,
And so my sister ended up getting pregnant at a really young age, and my brother was in a car accident that sort of for me brought everything to life, like to realizing that this was life, because he almost lost his in a T-bone. He was T-boned. So I think there's points in your life where they are core pieces or foundation parts for you, and I think that was like a wake-up call for me.
And you were about how old at that time?
I was 18.
18 at that time, gotcha. Okay.
Um,
So what changed in your life from before your brother had his accident to after?
well, I started thinking about my life and thinking about where I was headed, what I was doing, the importance of what am I going to do with my life? I mean,
Right.
you've got your whole life ahead of you right now, and I was thinking, okay, well, it's the thing to do is to get married and settle down and have kids and, raise them up. And it just didn't go that way in that relationship that I was in at all.
So you ended up breaking up with the boyfriend that you had moved in with.
Right.
Okay.
That relationship lasted for about 5 years.
5 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was really
And
fun.
so what do you think of how well of a man he was in the relationship? Do you think he gave you an example of what a real man should do? Or a good man, not necessarily a real man, because that's got kind of a stigma about it itself. A good man would be.
I think he had a lot of good qualities about him, but he wasn't. I mean, and at his age, he wasn't ready to be the head of the household at all. I mean, he just wasn't. He wasn't the one I was looking for, and I'm thankful because I'm the type of person I like to stick through it. I'm very loyal, and I'm thankful that it happened the way it did. In that relationship, it ended because he made me choose his religion versus my religion, and I wouldn't convert. That relationship ended. Took from it that I needed, I got to work my butt off basically, and try and find a good man to be with. At that point, I'm 22.
22?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And so I took a little time for me, per se, a little womanly time at that age to have some fun. And then I met the man I married. And it was great.
Which is Tommy's father.
Correct, yes.
All right,
Thomas'
okay.
father, yes. We got married 1 year from the day we started off in our relationship being set up on a blind date. And it was really good. We had a lot in common, a lot of same morals and goals for life. And so we got married. We had Tommy a couple years into our relationship. And then at that point in life, there was a situation that I went through that caused a big divide. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. Yeah, a great divide happened. And I experienced some things, and I messed up, and it was something that was not repairable. And
Now this was only like 3 years into the relationship.
Yeah.
Now we're not giving specifics for a reason. This is something that's really personal. it's kind of hard to talk about it without talking about it, so we're kind of skirting around that issue. But a major life event happened and a period of time in Mandy's life that it was not great for her.
Mm-hmm.
So that ended up causing rifts throughout yours and Tommy's dad's relationship.
Yep.
And this was only a couple of years in, like
Right.
3 years in.
Right. We tried to make things work for Tommy, just like my parents did.
Mm-hmm.
And we saw how that ended. And after 16 years together, we finally decided to divorce at that point.
So from 3 years to 16 years, you were still trying to make it work
Yeah.
through that amount of time.
Right. It was just never. It was never going to work, and we shouldn't have tried as hard as we did. And I became used to things that a marriage isn't, and I felt like I was always trying to make things up to him, and that's not on him. It's on me. But I just don't think that it was a relationship that should have continued.
So early on, shortly after that experience for you, 3, 4 years into it, you had this situation occur. Do you think that that would have been the best time to end the relationship, or carrying on for another 10, 11, 12 years after that,
Yeah.
trying to repair the fences that just didn't seem to want to get repaired?
No, we should have totally divorced at that time. Absolutely. We wanted so badly for things to work out,
Right.
and unfortunately, it was never going to.
So you had Tommy during this time. How was it raising a kid with somebody that you didn't feel like you were meant to be with, or that the relationship should have ended?
Well, it was really difficult. It was really difficult because,
Were you guys still on like the same page as far as how to raise a child?
yeah, I think we were. I think, we raised Tommy to the best of our abilities, just like any parent does, and works with what you've got. And I just don't think it was able to show Tommy the way he should treat a woman. And I think that. I think Tommy got a lot of the fundamentals down, but the fine tuning of things just wasn't there, and it's really a disservice to Tommy. I was really heartbroken over the way things ended. They should have ended a lot earlier, and so I feel like that was a disservice to Tommy, not ending it sooner, just because things could have been so different
Gotcha.
raising him.
We talked about your first boyfriend. I forgot to ask you about your dad. Do you feel like your dad was a good example of what a good man should be?
No, I think my dad had his moments,
Mm-hmm.
but no.
Okay, so you go from dad to first major boyfriend, also not a great example of what a good man should be. And then now we're on to your ex-husband, Tommy's dad. Do you think he was an example of what a good man should be, both to you and to Tommy?
I think to Tommy he was a good example for a majority of the life, but with him on how he treats me, or how Tommy should treat a woman, his wife, I don't think that was there. So again, a good man, great man, but not great at execution on that part.
Just not great to you.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay. Now, obviously, since you guys split, you and the ex, Tommy's dad, he has put in a lot of effort on his part
Yes.
to make the changes that he needs to make to become a better man.
Yes, absolutely.
And I've seen that just from understanding some of the previous experience to where he's at now.
Yes.
Obviously, being a good person is a consistent effort and nonstop thing. So it takes time, but I can definitely see a change in him.
Oh yeah, there's been tremendous change in him, and I think the therapy. I mean, and we're all in therapy at this point, but I think that's been so good for him. I'm really proud of him for making the changes necessary to better his life. So I'm really proud of him for that.
Okay. And then when we do our video, we'll get into this a little bit more. So, but after leaving and working on going through the divorce with him, when you were back on the dating scene, what were you looking for?
I was looking for a man, a good man, a solid man who has good morals, good values. Not somebody out there just chasing things and not ever catching. I wanted them to be the man of my dreams, basically. And I mean, I know that sounds cliche, but that's what I was looking for. Because it's never too late to have that happily ever after dream.
Right.
So,
All right.
that's what I was
Well,
looking for.
I think that's about it for your backstory, where you come from. And you said religion was kind of. Oh, I wanted to ask you that one other thing. When you were growing up and raised, of what it meant to be a lady. We've talked about before, where a lot of times men are told how to treat a lady, but not not what to expect from a lady. Vice versa, women are told what to expect from a man,
Yeah.
but not how to treat a man.
Right.
So those things are different. How did that transpire in your life growing up? How were you taught to be a lady, and how were you taught to treat a man?
Yeah, I was really fortunate to have both of my grandmothers growing up. And my Nana, she would take me to tea parties and women's groups, and we would do all the fun stuff and dress up in hats and gloves and all the fancy doodads. And she taught me manners on how to sit at the table properly and how to, which fork you use for what. And I think that was really important. I think that every little girl should know that. But I was really fortunate to have her in my life to teach me that, as well as teaching me about the man comes first. You serve your man. And my grandmother, very much, who's still alive today, wonderful woman, she always said that you serve your man his food first. He eats first. Then you serve the children. And then when you come in from work, after a long day of work, you take off his shoes and you rub his feet if you need to. Do whatever he needs, because that helps him be a better man.
And that's really beautiful, and that's something that's lost. And I think a lot of people think of it as a lesser than position.
Right.
You're being the man's servant. You're, in servitude to this person.
Yeah.
But to a degree, yes, but there's pleasure in that service.
Right.
You're showing your love through the service, through being kind, through being generous, through caring. And I think really that's the simplest way to put it. That's, serving somebody a meal and making somebody a meal is one of the biggest things you can do for somebody,
Yeah, it's just simple things.
Yeah.
They're simple things, and I think they're great acts of service. I love that. My favorite thing.
I like it too. So, but giving that service to somebody who's undeserving of that service, a lot of times that will leave a scar on good people that have put forth that effort to the wrong people.
Right.
And I'm really thankful that hasn't been lost on you through these bad relationships that you've been in, and you're still able to carry that on and give that opportunity to another man, me, to do it right.
Right.
So
I have faith.
Well, I hope I don't disappoint, and I think in the next video we'll do my backstory a little bit, and then I think the one after that we'll probably get into our story, where we go from who I am, who she is, to who we are, and make that grilled cheese family a whole thing. So,
I love it.
all right, baby, I love you.
I love you too. This is gonna be in the picture.
Yep. We'll have to name it. I mean, my head can cover it for the most part. We gotta think of like something to say when we're at the beginning of a video.
Like,
I don't know.
this is the moldy, oldie, blue cheese part of the grilled cheese sandwich.